Welcome to the City Council work session of Monday, August 10th. Ms. McKay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Williams. Here. Ms. Ramsey.
Here.
Mayor Pons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Here.
Okay, first matters of special privilege. Item A is consideration and action of the readoption of the remote participation policy in the City Code Section 2-34 of the City Council. Ms. Shelton?
This is just a housekeeping matter as you begin your meetings for this week. Every year, the council is required to readopt its remote participation policy. We put the remote participation policy in the city code. All this requires is for city council to verbally take a vote, a roll call vote, to readopt the policy as provided in section 234 of the city code.
Questions? No? Ms. Ramsey, I bet you have a motion.
I do. I move that City Council readopt the remote participation policy for City Council found in Section 2-34 of the Williamsburg City Code.
Second.
Okay.
Williams. Aye. Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Well, matters of fact, we have to do that now. Item B is consideration and approval of a remote participation request from Council Member Stacy Kern-Shear for the August 10th, 2026 City Council work session. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the remote participation request from Councilmember Stacy Kern-Shear for the August 10, 2026 City Council work session.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams. Aye. Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Welcome, Ms. Kern-Shear.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for approving the motion.
Welcome. Okay, leads us now to item 4, which is items for council meetings of August 13th. Council preview, Ms. DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. For your Thursday business meeting, which will be at 2 p.m. right here, first you'll consider remote participation for Stacy Kern-Shear to join you Thursday, then approval of your July minutes. You have 2 public hearings. Both are SUP requests, special use permit requests from the school system. The first is to continue using 2 learning cottages at Matthew Whaley Elementary School. And the second is to install a walk-in freezer, a storage shed, and a basketball court at Berkeley Middle School. Our monthly operating report will be from our Planning and Codes Compliance Director, Tavia Griffin, about the schedule of our comprehensive plan update. And then you have a few items for new business. You have a Tourism Promotion Contingency Fund request to sponsor the Themed Entertainment Association Explores Williamsburg event. And that is scheduled to happen at the Greater Williamsburg Sports and Event Center. And then you have an award of hopefully 3 bids for work on the African American Heritage Trail. Those bids are sealed until tomorrow afternoon when they will be open and reviewed by our Public Works Department, and we hope to have a responsive low bid to present to you for consideration. And then our Line of Duty Act payment this year to the Virginia Retirement System is greater than $100,000, which requires City Council approval, so that is on your agenda. It is budgeted, but it does require your action before we expend the funds. And lastly, we have an emergency procurement for a sewer pipe. So the Public Works Director will talk about that, and that is also greater than $100,000, requiring your approval before we expend it. And that's the end.
Any questions for the city manager? Okay, it leads us now to public comments. I do have 1 speaker's card. Unless you want to wait till the open forum, you're welcome to do that. But the card I have is Ms. Lindsay Barna. Welcome.
Ready? I think my comments might be.
I'm sorry, Ms. Barna. If you just give your name and
my
address
name
for
and
the
address.
record, please.
Lindsay Barna, Indian Springs Road, Williamsburg.
Thank you.
So some of these questions might be premature, but I know that we're getting an update today on both the live performance venue and also on the library. And so I just wanted to give a few thoughts or ask a few questions about them before we hear the presentations in hopes that the speakers might be able to answer them. So first of all, when it comes to the live performance venue, my understanding of looking at the plans, it looks like a fairly modest-sized amphitheater, which doesn't seem that different to me from what is already in existence on William & Mary's campus, which is an underutilized amphitheater that is adjacent to Lake Metoka, which is a beautiful setting. So I was just wondering how this new live performance venue would differ from what already exists in town and therefore benefit the city, and especially if we're going to use city funds for that venue. In addition to that, I feel like our current concerts bring in business to the downtown area. So the concerts that take place in front of the Art Museum or in Merchant Square, typically what I notice as a casual observer is that it seems to drive up business to restaurants, bars, maybe even stores, and that brings in additional tax revenue. So I was also curious of what we thought in terms of if we were to move forward with the live performance venue that's away from the downtown area, what impact that might have on that potential tax or business revenue. When it comes to the library, switching topics, I just wanted to put out there that I think libraries are really important, what they refer to as third spaces within communities. I think that the entire community can use libraries in different ways. I know that they're really important for my family in particular, but beyond that, I know that one criticism that I have heard off and on is that it's people from the county or York County or other communities that are using our downtown library, and that's seen as, why should we have a more expensive library that we're paying for that benefits the surrounding area? And I would say that I think that it might benefit the surrounding area, and I don't see that as a bad thing. In addition, usually when someone comes in from James City County or comes in from York County or maybe even further away to go to one of the programs at the library, a lot of times they'll stay here and they will have lunch at the bake shop or go to a coffee shop or do something else in the downtown area, which once again brings in tax revenue for the city. So I do think that while a library might benefit more than just the city of Williamsburg residents, I don't see that as a bad thing, and I do support the improvements or undertaking the construction of a new library. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward? Okay, there will be another open forum at the end of the meeting if you wish to speak then. So I'll close the public comment period now, and we'll move on to background presentations. And first is the update on the live performance venue project. Ms. DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce the chair of the HTRFA, Scott Stevens, to give this presentation. Welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Stevens.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Pons, members of City Council, City Manager, and Assistant City Manager. You know, in addition to being James City County Administrator, I'm also the Chair of the Historic Triangle Recreation Facilities Authority, or HTRFA. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce our presentation that will provide an update on our activities related to the live performance venue. In 2023, you asked the HTRFA to study what a live performance venue for our community might look like and what the facility would cost. Today, we're here to talk a little bit about the history of the project, the desire for such a facility in our community, and to provide a recommendation on what we believe would best serve our communities if a live performance venue were to be built. We've spent time researching facilities, talking with performance venue designers, and creating a 35% design that provides a significant level of detail and cost estimating. Our presentation includes some operating expenses and revenue projections, but it does not include a recommendation on how to fund the construction of the facility. Our intent today is to inform our communities and our residents and what could be built and begin public discussion or more public discussion around this project. The James City County Board of Supervisors and the HTRFA board members heard a similar presentation to what you're going to hear today at their July meetings. We are not requesting any action of the City Council today, just questions, comments, and if you have direction for us, happy to take that as well. At this time, I would like to just recognize our Executive Director, Dana Yaus, for the HTRFA. I appreciate her interest in this project and her assistance thus far. And I would ask Rick Hibbert behind me, a member of our design build team, to come to the podium and present our findings. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Hibbert.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Mr. Hibbert, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. and present to you. My name is Rick Hibbett. I work with Clark Nexon, one of the designers on the live performance venue, and I represent our design build team today. First and foremost, I want to thank the council for your vision and support of the Indoor Sports and Events Center. That was a long process that we went through, but it is absolutely amazing to see that building come to life and see the community utilizing it, as well as visitors coming in. I've had it's kind of a full circle moment. I've been able this summer to watch my kids do basketball camp there, play in the adventure gym, and I've actually held work meetings there. So it's just really exciting to see that, and that's a testament to all the local leaders for that vision, to see that come to fruition. So thank you. But today's another milestone. Today we get to talk about the next phase of the complex. And I want to make sure I've got the right click here. Okay. So the live performance venue is a project that we've worked on for quite some time. And this predates our team, and it goes back decades. And the first slide that I want to show here is the history of this project. There's a lot going on in this slide, so the main thing that I want to focus on is a lot of the groups that we go and watch today, like the Virginia Regional Ballet or the Williamsburg Symphony Orchestra. Those groups formed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they began doing performances around the region and have done so ever since. In the 90s, local groups and citizens began to study what the needs assessment would be for an indoor performing arts center. And there's several studies that were done from 1996 all the way through the 2000s. And each one of those studies came back and said that, yes, there was demand and that our region could support a professional live performance venue. And so you can see that for over 30 years, our community has been working hard to try to figure out a path forward. And we stand at the doorstep today to help bring that vision to a reality. These groups have formalized their name. They are now the Advocates for a Live Performance Venue. They've been known as a few different names over these last 30 years, but they're represented by the groups you see here listed, as well as many others. And they do about 80 to 90 existing event days a year, and that ranges from the symphony to ballet performances to Williamsburg Live. And they do tremendous things for our region without really a place to call home. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. When we look at the timeline for this specific facility, it really starts in 2022 when our team submitted an unsolicited PPEA to build the sports center. With that, we had a master plan development. We wanted to look at the whole site, not just the sports center, because we wanted to make sure that whatever future development came, it would work in synergy with the sports center. Our plan included a live performance venue. At the time, it was an outdoor facility capable of hosting outdoor performances, and that has evolved over time, really driven by the community's needs and desires. So in March of 2023, our team, as well as a local group, submitted for a TDF grant to help try to provide some funding for studying and researching the demand for a live performance venue. We continued that process through 2023, and in December, City Council directed or requested the HTRFA to study the live performance venue. And in 2024, our team did that through research, design concepts, and presentations. And we completed our interim agreement in January of 2025. However, the project was put on hold while the localities discussed budgets through the rest of that year. And we stand here today ready to present our findings from that interim agreement. Our team is the same team that provided the design for the nationally recognized sports center, except we've added a few industry-leading theater consultants and operations consultants that has helped us design something really unique and phenomenal and world-class. Those groups are Theater Projects, I Am Going, and Virginia Arts Festival. Everyone else on the design build team remains the same, including MEB, Clark Nexon, Henderson, Guernsey Tingle, and Timmons group. So before I get into where we're at, I do want to show the master plan that we submitted in 2022. As you can see, the sports center is pretty close to its current location. It did shift down a little bit, but right there's the focus of our discussion today, which was an outdoor music venue. Again, that design has evolved over time, but it was always part of what we felt like would be a great complex and a synergy to the Sports Center and drive visitors to the region, but also be a great community asset where the community could bond and participate in a wide variety of events. So new program, we were tasked with a challenging design effort. We had to provide a design that had indoor and outdoor capabilities and also be able to host amplified sound and unamplified performances, which is unique. And we've toured dozens of these across the country, and it's a challenging task to do that, but our team has done it, and we're excited about what we've produced. The indoor facility is 68,000 square feet. It includes 1,000 seated, that's 500 fixed and 500 portable. When I say portable, it's not fold-out plastic chairs, it's theater-type gang seating that are really nice and can be moved in and out as necessary. Indoor, you can go up to 1,700 general admission, so if there is a standing room only event, you can go up to 1,700. Outdoors is a 90,000 square foot amphitheater, 1,100 seated, 39 on the lawn for a total capacity of 5,000. And we'll get into some of the different amenities as we walk through the floor plan. This is our current design. The Sports Center is in its existing location, and in the center of the design, you can see the indoor performance center and the outdoor amphitheater. And for context, you can see the existing structures like group arrivals, visitor center, and the Woodlands Hotel. Zooming in gives you a better up-close picture of the indoor performance center and the amphitheater, as well as some of the existing sites that are there. The only facility that would be impacted by this current design directly is the Cascades Motel, which is slated to come down as part of the Sports Center completion. So moving into the building, this is the first floor plan. Center of the structure is the performance hall. There are 250 tiered mezzanine seats in there, 500 portable seats on the floor. Again, that can be configured into a number of different ways. It could be a banquet hall, it can be a speaker event, or it can be a concert or live performance. The area in light blue is the front of house. So your lobby, your restrooms, your food and beverage point of sales, and everything that a patron would need to come to a performance here. The gray area is the back of house. The unique component of this project is that the indoor and outdoor stages share that back of house, which reduces costs significantly. If you were to build those two facilities independently, it would cost significantly more money to do that. It also helps with efficiencies with operations as well, because you have all the same staff on the same site using the same facilities. So back of house includes all the management offices, load-in, load-out areas, the dressing rooms, rehearsal spaces, food and beverage prep areas. And then as we move up, we have 250 more seats in the mezzanine area. Those are fixed, permanent seats. We have additional support spaces for the patrons, including VIP and donor lounges, VIP boxes, additional restrooms, and food and beverage point of sales, as well as extra support space for back of house, chorus rooms, flex rooms, hospitality suites, everything that the performers would need to come and have a good experience and want to come back. And then, not very exciting, but the third mezzanine, the third floor area is the catwalk, all the things necessary to run the facility. This is a cross section of the building, includes your line of sights, your line sets and rigging, the equipment necessary to do theatrical performances and other events. And now the exciting part, so looking at what the building would look like both on the outside and the inside. The outdoor facility the indoor facility is designed with a lot of the same materials as the Sports Center, just in a different way to create a different feel for the venue because of its usage. But the materials are the same, and a lot of those materials also play off of the existing facilities on the site, like the Visitor Center or the Woodlands Conference Center. As we move in the building, a nice big grand lobby space and stairway, welcoming, inviting to those that come to watch a performance. As we move into the performance hall, we can see that we could host a rock concert on a Friday night, and with some change of lighting, you could have a piano recital on a Sunday afternoon, or the Williamsburg Symphony Orchestra on a Wednesday night. And so we designed the venue in a way that it would not take a lot to change out for different functions and different events, but it would still have a wonderful feel and the appropriate feel for what your event might be. This is the perspective from the Sports Center balcony overlooking the outdoor amphitheater. And so we really, again, this is where we wanted to play the two buildings together and make sure that they worked together, not against each other. So if you're standing on the Sports Center balcony, you could watch a performance on the amphitheater, as well as you can see the outdoor balcony space for the indoor performance center. All right, so schedule, budget, and financial projections. We have completed about 35–40% of design with the interim agreement. We have about 6 months left to finish design, about 24 months left of construction. Now, a lot of that can be shortened because it's design build, so we can overlap a lot of the design and some of the construction, the early phases of construction. So we're anticipating about 24 months of total project duration. Total budget cost, we're looking at just over $83 million. That includes the interim agreement fees, which have already been paid. It also includes the theater equipment and the F&B equipment. We tried to provide a turnkey solution for all the equipment that would be necessary to open the facility and run it. There will be some additional loose FF&E costs that will need to be figured into this, but in terms of the large equipment, it is factored into our overall budget. So when we designed the venue, we obviously used our experts that are in the room, our designers, our construction team, but we also wanted to use metrics. And so we utilized a couple of studies that were done by local groups here in the community, one of them being the Advocates for a Live Performance Venue. They did a study, and they worked with Victus Advisors to take a look at the market demand, the feasibility, the financial feasibility, economic impact of what a venue like this would do to our community. And so with that, we're going to lose a little bit of that with the icon there.
Was Stacy in the way?
Sorry, Stacy.
So sorry, I'm in the way.
You're fine. We've got the numbers on the left side of the screen too. So basically the summary is, with just what we have locally, and again, this initial study was primarily focused on local groups with some regional usage, we would have 83 events a year and about 140,000 annual attendees, so strong numbers. And then when you correlate that to hotel room nights and economic impact, you have 8,000 room nights, new room nights additional to the region, and just under $18 million in total economic output. So when it comes to tax revenue projections, you can see here that the facility would generate just under $104,000 in annual taxes for the city of Williamsburg, $173,000 for the James City County, and $172,000 for York County. And then on the operating, they did an operating pro forma as well. So looking at operating revenues versus operating expenses, again, you can't see the bottom number, but it is a 9% once the facility is up and running. In year 3, they project a 9% profit margin. So they believe that this facility will operate in the black and will not lose money. A lot of that is driven by the commercial piece of this facility, the unique nature of combining the performance arts and the commercial components together is the consultants believe that will carry the facility to operate in the black because of the commercial offerings. I think I lost my ability to, sorry. Thank you. So in addition to that, in 2025, and let me say that the ALPV study was done in 2024, and those numbers do not reflect the new tax numbers. So we are working with Victus to have a proposal to update those numbers based upon emissions tax and some of the increases that took place. But in 2025, Visit Williamsburg wanted to add upon the study and look at multi-day events. And the reason they wanted to do this was their research showed that live music has changed over the last few years, and specifically after COVID. People are looking for a different experience when they look at live performance or entertainment. They want to go, they want to stay overnight more, they want to participate in the offerings that the communities have. It's more than just going, seeing a concert at night and going back home. My family, I can attest to that. We went and watched Lainey Wilson in Wilmington, and we figured if we're going to go to Wilmington, why not spend a weekend there? And we went to the Battleship and we went to the beach. So we stayed 2 nights, ate at restaurants, spent a lot of money there, but had a great time. And so these metrics have started to show that people's desire and how they participate in live entertainment has changed dramatically since COVID. So they had Victus look at additional work to say if we had 4 annual events that are multi-day events, 6 or 12, what would that do to the financial projections? And these numbers are tax revenue generations, which are inclusive of the 2024 study and the new ones by Visit Williamsburg. Again, predates the new taxes, so those still need to be updated. But even with 4 annual events, they're more than doubling the projected revenue for taxes in the 3 localities. So those multi-day events draw more people in, hotel room nights, eating out, it drives that economic output. Hotel room night generations, 4 annual events, they project another 7,500 in addition to the 8,000. If you do 6 annual events, it's as much as 9,500 more, again, in addition to the 8,000. So starting to drive even more substantial room nights associated with this facility. And then just as a summary, you can see the 2024 analysis and then the multi-day event analysis and what those increases would be. All right, so last we have a video to show. This video was actually produced by the City of Williamsburg for a very specific audience. We worked with the HDRFA, we worked with James City County, York County to tailor it a little bit more and adjust it. It is 8 minutes, so please bear with me, but it is a really exciting video on what this facility could be and what it means to the community.
Williamsburg boasts a vibrant cultural landscape that rivals big cities. We have world-class history and art museums, a premier public university, an impressive variety of festivals and events, and a rich culinary scene. Williamsburg is also home to incredibly talented performing arts groups, creating an exciting atmosphere of arts and culture. Yet we currently lack a public performance venue worthy of their quality and ambition. Imagine a state-of-the-art performance venue equipped with both an indoor theater and an outdoor amphitheater designed to spotlight and amplify the extraordinary talents of local performing arts groups like the Williamsburg Ballet, the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, the Williamsburg Symphony Orchestra, Opera in Williamsburg, and the Williamsburg Players. This versatile indoor-outdoor space will also attract regional and national acts, enhancing Williamsburg's performing arts offerings even further. At the newly expanded Muscarelli Museum of Art, we've seen the opportunities that come with a modern venue designed to showcase exceptional art. A live performance venue provides Williamsburg's brilliant performing artists the stage they not only need, but deserve.
Williamsburg has a lot to offer. We're known for our history, we're known for being a cozy town with a lot of good people and great vibes. But there's also an incredible, thriving arts and culture community to this city that when people get in and they discover it, they're hooked for life. It's a thing. There are incredible venues already existing throughout the city of Williamsburg, but this new proposal brings something different to the table. And as an event producer in town, it's very exciting to be able to have more spaces in which to create programming that drives and builds on this arts and culture community for people of all ages and all backgrounds.
the Williamsburg Symphony is considered to play way above its weight. It is a really good orchestra. Many of our guest artists come here and they're really surprised to find A, that we have such a good orchestra, and B, that we are playing in a place that is acoustically not what it really needs to be. So we're beginning to reach out. We are beginning to be played now often on National Public Radio. We are even getting some international calls for some of our performances. I do think that if we had a dedicated facility, we become more visible regionally, nationally, and even maybe a bit internationally.
Over the past 28 years, the Virginia Arts Festival has presented a wide variety of entertainment here in Williamsburg. 10 years ago, in 2016, we came upon the DeWitt Wallace Museum lawn and the formation of our signature event, Williamsburg Live. As you can see, there is absolutely no infrastructure, so we have to bring in all of the sound, lighting, staging, seating, tents for the covered seating. We have tents for the dressing rooms. We need to bring in the generators for electricity, water, porta-johns, food trucks, all of the infrastructure that's necessary to do a live performance event. This is the infrastructure that we would need in a permanent location that would enable us to continually to grow Williamsburg Live from just not one weekend, but multiple performances throughout the summer months here, and then the hybrid venue, which would have an indoor performance arts venue attached to the outdoor amphitheater, would enable both venues to program year-round and bring more events to the city and grow the market.
We've been looking for a quality space for the community and for the region and for national attraction to expand what we've already got here in terms of audience. That's really the vision. Rob Cross from the Virginia Arts Festival, he's well known, he brings national people, and I know he wants to come here. The Virginia Symphony would like to come here. Small jazz groups have spoken to us and saying, oh, we'd really like to be part of that because we would love to perform in Williamsburg. Our vision is to just be a cultural home for diverse things that we don't have space for now.
The Virginia Regional Ballet uses several of our theaters, depending on our performance. We, of course, have been doing the Nutcracker for 40 years now. We've moved our Nutcracker to the Ferguson Center in Newport News, where we can have a large audience and an orchestra. The limitations of the current spaces are, one, the orchestra pit, and two, the main thing is the number of audience members seats that are in the theater. It is hard to make a profit with the low number of seats and trying to keep it economically friendly to our patrons. I think having a beautiful live performing arts venue that has an orchestra pit and has a fly rail and can seat 1,000 people in a beautiful lobby just will elevate the whole experience. When you go to see a performance like the Nutcracker, it's not just coming to see a show, it's getting dressed up, it's making plans, it's going to dinner or lunch afterwards, and then having a little cocktail after the performance. And it's a thing where people, families bond and create memories when they're going to the theater.
A great performance venue has its own vibe, and it develops a reputation in the artistic community. The performers want to go somewhere that has great acoustics. They want to go somewhere that recordings can be made and enjoyed. When we think about a new performance venue here, we also think about a multi-use performance venue. And it would be a groundbreaking type of place. People would leave after a wonderful experience, but they would also say, wow, that place was gorgeous. It had cachet, it had great sound, it had great concessions, the parking was wonderful, and guess what? It was in Williamsburg.
A live performance venue in the heart of Williamsburg is an investment in the arts and in our community's cultural vitality. It would create opportunities for our gifted performers while elevating Williamsburg's status as a top-tier cultural destination. With your support, we can invest in a space that reflects our commitment to culture, to community, and to a thriving Williamsburg art scene. Please consider becoming part of the dream. Thank you.
So in closing, this project is about far more than constructing another venue. It's about completing a vision that has been pursued for decades. It's about attracting new visitors, generating economic activity, supporting local businesses, and enhancing the quality of life of residents Most importantly, it's about investing in an asset that future generations will enjoy and benefit for decades to come. And we believe that this venue has the potential to become one of the defining cultural and entertainment destinations in Virginia. And we look forward to working with you to make that vision a reality. So at this time, I'll take any questions, and I might defer some of them to Mr. Stevens, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Stevens, Mr. Hibbets, thank you for the presentation. For the city, we've been making some investments in what you've been able to present so far, the design work and everything. So this is a vision that this council and previous councils has had, in listening to the arts community, and certainly remember one of my first meetings as mayor was with Ms. Rubline, talking about this, creating a facility like this. And even then, with that conversation, built the vision of what could be on the visitor center site along with the sports. And I went by this weekend by the sports center, and it's just phenomenal to see people there playing mahjong and jumping on the pit and playing sports and just really making it a hub of activity. Regardless of them spending money anywhere, they were there for a good time in this community together with our partners in James City County and York County. We're able to do that. And I really see the synergy between what we've created there and what this live performance venue could do to that site, but moreover to the greater Williamsburg community. Having a home for these cultural events, creating an opportunity, as some of the speakers said, here would be a phenomenal next step for us. And so, I really thank you for getting us this far with this work. Can you help me understand, how did you determine the size, the seating, and how did you get to that number? I mean, we could be talking about something that holds 100,000 people, but that's not what we're doing. How did we pick this size?
So it's based upon the consultant's study work. Victus Advisors looks at these all across the country, and they base it on population, opportunities. They interview local groups. They interview regional and national groups. So trying to figure out what the market would support. Also based upon what some other facilities that are in the region are. So trying to find that competitive area where this facility could be successful. And so their findings came back that the inside would be about 1,000 seated and outside about 5,000. So trying to find the balance between not too big, not too small, but it's based on their metrics.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for answering that question. One of the early meetings that I had on the subject was with one of the big concert promoters, and he said, don't build something that you can't fill, because that's important to performers. So having that right sweet spot, so to speak, is important, and I think you all have been able to achieve that. How does this, going to Ms. Barna's question, how is this facility different than what we may think are assets in the community, Pi Beta Kappa or the outdoor amphitheater?
Matoka. Yeah, Matoka Amphitheater. Yeah, it's a great question. There's challenges with the current facilities that we have. Some of them are the usage and the programming that's already being done in them is mainly driven by their needs, what's most important to them. So the College of William & Mary, for example, they have their own programming, and that always comes first. That's the priority, which is understandable and makes sense. So then it becomes hard to schedule other events inside of those narrow windows that they're given. The Matoka Amphitheater is a wonderful, beautiful setting, but it's not designed for what we're proposing and what the market and our region could do and support. You think about Williamsburg Live, and you hear John Martin in there talking about how there's no equipment, there's no tents, there's nothing set up, and when we go to those events, they're phenomenal. Those types of events could not happen at the Matoka Amphitheater, and so that's why there's a need for something like what we're proposing.
Yeah, and so thank you for answering that question. Starkly different than our approach to the sports center was the City of Williamsburg's ability to fund much of the construction using some of the Historic Triangle tourism tax that we set aside for product development. But through that process, our conversations evolved to what could be. But the big difference is there isn't the money today. But I think there's opportunities out there to raise funds, with our partners, our municipal partners potentially. I'm not trying to put pressure on Mr. Stevens standing there or our friends in York County, but we don't know what that opportunity looks like. We don't know what opportunities look like with donors. We don't, visit Williamsburg. So there's money out there. It reminds me, I was talking to somebody who was chair of a building committee, and he stood there and said, "I've got great news. I found the money. The problem is it's still in your pockets." So we've got to find, I think, this is a great opportunity for our community. It's a great opportunity for all the reasons that we heard in the video, creating synergy and a home for the arts. It ties really well into who we are as the greater Williamsburg area. And so I think we should find a way to try to achieve this. My suggestion would be to go back to the HTRFA, let them have a conversation about, okay, here it is, how do we get this done? Work with the arts community, work with, our regional organizations, and work amongst ourselves as a tri-community area. See what we do to make this project come to fruition. It's not going to happen tomorrow, I get that. But I believe that this conversation is worthy enough to continue to have. And so I think the best place for that to happen, in my estimation, would be at the HTRFA, and ask them, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Witt, and Ms. Hutton, who's on that committee, to begin having the conversation is how do we build that financial model that brings this to fruition for our community. So that's where I am. But so,
Mayor, one, I appreciate that. I really want to say thanks to the City Council on the Sports Center. You took a lion's share of that. It has been phenomenally well received. Even some of the naysayers that I spoke with previously have been blown away when they get into that facility. So part of our job is to make sure it delivers as we said, and I believe it will. I think it will have the visitation and the economics that we have shared. Following the presentation of this live performance venue to the James City County Board, the feedback I've heard, again, has been pretty phenomenal. People are very excited, and again, it is, how do we get to that next step? And I do think the HTRFA is a good place to have those discussions. I know you've been having some of those. We've had them individually with others, and there are some opportunities in the community that it doesn't all come from local government. I think we have a place in it. I think, I hate to get ahead of my board, I think they would do some. Maybe not all, and so if we can get that public support and some other entities involved, I think there is an opportunity to move it forward as well.
good. Well, thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Stevens and Mr. Hibbett, for the update. I don't think there's any doubt that what this venue would do for enhancing the arts and culture in Williamsburg, it's exciting to even see a venue such as that as renderings. When we visited facilities and we first started having this conversation, as Mr. Hibbett pointed out in the presentation, it evolved. In the beginning, we were talking about 35 million, and now we're at, to the mayor's point, we're at 83 million. And just speaking for Williamsburg, critical infrastructure that we've had to replace with fire station police station, consideration of a new library, you know, that's a huge amount of money to look at investing. Not saying that it wouldn't bring the return. It's at this time looking at that type of investment. And you're right. I've talked to Mr. Stevens. I've talked to some people who are not in favor of this sports and event center. But I think we also need some time to see that success continue with that. It's been great in the beginning. I was there with Mr. Hibbett with my grandson at the basketball camp that his boys attended. So we're seeing a lot of success, but I think it needs some time to see some of that success continue. And I think it would be great for all three localities. And I'm sure James City has similar challenges with budget with things that their capital improvement projects they're working on. But I also agree that there's an opportunity for the localities not to take on a considerable amount of the burden for this facility. One question, Mr. Hibbett, one thing, it was in the video, someone mentioned parking, but I never heard you touch on parking. So because we always hear parking, what about an event at the Sports and Event Center, and if this facility comes to fruition and you've got concerts, where does all that parking take place?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've analyzed it in a couple different ways. So we believe that there's enough parking on site to handle, most every type of event. A lot of that's going to come down to scheduling and working with the two facilities to make sure that scheduled events are appropriately done. A lot of your sports center events tend to get finished up around 5 or 6 o'clock, whether it's basketball or volleyball or even like conventions and things like that. And all your music events come in the evening. So I think there's opportunities for just pure scheduling to help alleviate that. And then I think the ultimate goal would be that there are parking issues, that there are parking challenges, because that means that there's enough events and enough people coming that now we've got to have another discussion. And so I think right now, the way it's done, we've designed it in a way that it can support what the needs are. Over time, maybe it's so successful between the two facilities that there would need to be a parking discussion at that point. But I think there's time for that to transpire and take place. But
Thank you.
Ms. Ramsey? Oh, Stacy, sorry. Out of sight, out of mind.
That's okay. Oh, no. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for the presentation and for the update. I did have a question about some of the thinking behind the questions or the results from the feasibility study in particular. And I'm wondering about, really, how do you gauge, or what are some of the things that one looks at to gauge the reasonableness of the likelihood that Williamsburg would attract musicians and performances from other places? I mean, obviously we have incredible success with Williamsburg Live, and I'm a huge, advocate for that. But I'm thinking about what is it about Williamsburg that you think that was part of the study, and part of the thinking behind the study is here's how many nights, here's how many acts we think we could get in. I'm just a little bit curious as to some of the thoughts behind how you get to those numbers on acts that would come to town, or the number of events that could happen, not counting those amongst the community organizations that we have, and I understand those as their own, but I'm talking about bringing acts in from out of town on a sustained basis.
Yeah, great question. I think I don't want to speak on behalf of our consultant, but I do know the way that they collect that data. Most of it's driven around similar markets and what those markets can bring in based upon population or offerings that are around there. But they also do interviews with promoters that they talk to, and they say, if this facility was in Williamsburg, what kind of events would you bring here? What could you expect in terms of the type of acts, the performances, and the number of people you think would come to those shows? So that's the metrics that they use to base the information off of. And those interviews, I know they interviewed with the ALPV, I think it's a dozen or so promoters around the region, but also nationally, to help gauge that. They also worked with people from this area that promote, and try to look at if you had a facility that could promote more regionally, what would that look like? Because a lot of them are for lack of better words, handcuffed based upon the current offerings and facilities that they have. So if they had a larger venue or they had a venue like this, they could bring in more events and larger shows and larger acts.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Ramsey?
Is that it? Well, thank you for the presentation. I'm very excited about this. I've been an advocate for a live performance venue for a long time, and I think it really fits into the next phase of ISM for Williamsburg. The mayor talked about, the number of years between big changes in Williamsburg, where we had Colonial Williamsburg, and then we had Busch Gardens, and now we have the Sports and Events Center. So we're covering a large appetite for people's interest, and I see culturism as the next ism for us to really take advantage of, because we already have so much with Jamestown, with Yorktown, with Colonial Williamsburg, with William and Mary, and this is an opportunity to build on it. And I, like the mayor, am ready to, okay, what's it take to look at a funding plan? As Rick said, what was it you said? We need to figure a path forward, and I believe we've got an organization to help us figure a path forward. And just because we come up with a funding plan doesn't mean that we don't wait some to see how the Sports and Events Center continues to attract different types of activities and groups in there. And when we talked about the GWSCC a few weeks ago, one of the key words for me was flexibility. And I think that's one thing that is going to really drive the success, is the flexibility that was built in there and the unique features. And I see the same things with the design that you all have created for the LPV. Yes, it's going to cost a little bit more, but it's going to provide us with venues, with opportunities for so many different organizations to come in. And I recently talked to the Dean of Arts and Sciences at William & Mary, and we talked about culture and what the William & Mary has done with PBK and with the new music venue. And she said they're already sold out. For their particular reasons, they built a smaller PBK, and so they can't accommodate everything. And she and their arts director both recognize that the more venues you have, the more opportunities you have, then it brings in different groups. And one thing I've heard in reference to Stacy's questions about performers is that performers like to have sort of a middle location. So we often hear of someone who was at Williamsburg Live, but they were at Wolf Trap the week before, and next week they're going to Raleigh. And so we provide that great middle ground where they can get extra nights in. So for me, a couple things, not only the flexibility, but the choice. They always say a rising tide lifts all boats, and I think that this would do that. And one thing that has struck me as sort of another reason why this LPV would be important to the community is because I'm a liaison to the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. They often talk about what does it take to recruit and retain talent in this area. We've got the jobs, we've got the needs, but a lot of people now, they don't care about, well, they do care about the pay, but it's far more than that. It's quality of life. And this provides another reason for people to look at Williamsburg when they're looking at employers to be based here or for employees to accept that job. And just one came up recently with Kongsberg, the big new building complex in James City County, that they are big supporters of culture in Norway, and might provide an opportunity to make them feel a little bit more of this community if they help support it through an LPV. So I'm very excited about it, appreciate the presentation, appreciate your leadership on the HTRFA. And as most people know, I could talk about this for hours, but I'll just call it a day there. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the information and for your time here today. And, you know, I was thinking, really, we've seen this shift towards more of creating arts infrastructure here in Williamsburg. And we see that, as already mentioned, with PBK, the new music center, and also the Mascarelli, too, which was featured in the video as well. And, you know, looking at the renderings as well, it kind of made me think of, with the sports center, how multi-use it is. And we also see that same theme carried through this new project as well. As the mayor said, I mean, really, I've, you know, been to the sports center a couple times, and it has just continued to amaze me, the feedback and how well the community has really just embraced the sports center as well. So very excited to see where this project goes, but I can't help to but think of, you know, the word of stewardship comes to my mind. And really, as a community, and us in this capacity, we have an obligation to be good stewards, especially when it comes to our finances. And as the Vice Mayor said earlier, you know, the City of Williamsburg, we've taken on several capital projects within the past few, really the past few years, which have all been needed. But I think, you know, looking at this, as the mayor said, really looking at opportunities to engage with external partners, especially when it comes to funding, especially when we're looking at the $83 million price tag coming up to it, and also just being kind of cognizant of the planning and the timeline at which we pursue a project like this as well. I did have one question, and this is kind of pivots our kind of question conversation just a little bit, and it's actually in regards to the Cascades Hotel that is already there. Has any kind of I guess rapport or any progress been made to look at how much it would cost to tear the hotel down? Is that included in the $83 million cost, or is that just something that we need to still look into?
Part of our lease it's not part of the live performance venue project. It is part of the Greater Williamsburg Sports and Event Center project. So we do have money reserved that CW needs to get that building ready to be demolished, and then part of our lease requirement is that we would then demolish that building. We've got some, along with some others, we do have some cost estimates, but it is not part of the LPV and not built into that project price.
Okay, and that's already money that's been reserved through the Sports and Event
It
Center?
is an expectation of the HTRFA as part of our lease, and so we will have funding to do that, yes.
Gotcha, well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate your time today and the presentation, and look forward to hearing from you all about how to pay for it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, leads us to our next update, which is an update on the Williamsburg Regional Library Downtown Project, including design progress, project cost, and potential funding options. Ms. DeWitt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm going to, before we bring up the experts in this project, just go over a few things about this, if I can wake this up. So this project, back in 2007, really started in earnest with a formal space needs study. And 2018, there were extensive surveys and focus groups. And then in 2023, the Board of Trustees of the Williamsburg Regional Library acted or passed a resolution to support a new downtown facility here as part of the library system. In May of 2024, City Council issued an RFP for the design and construction of the facility. And you'll remember that was reviewed by committee, by City Council, and then in December of 2025, City Council authorized the interim agreement to proceed with 35% design drawings for this project. That has happened, and we are here today to report that out along with the guaranteed maximum price. Before I get into I'm going to talk a little bit about the cost of the project in a moment, but before I do that, I want to sort of set the stage for what could be the timeline moving forward on this project. We're discussing it today, and then in September, at the September City Council meeting, council could consider to approve the project with a contract with Horgan, the construction contractor. In mid-September, following that, Davenport could distribute an RFP to start gathering proposals for financing the project. In October, City Council could hold a public hearing to consider a bond resolution for that financing with a November closing on financing. So to give you that sort of the perspective, then move into, in January, would begin with the demolition of the police station. In April would begin construction of the new library building itself. In February of 2028 would be the demolition of the existing library with an August 2028 move-in or opening date for the new facility. So just wanted to give you the perspective from 2007 into the next couple years, how this project could move forward. Let me share some numbers here with you because we've been talking about this project for quite a while. In 2024, the proposal from Horgan was $26.1 million to construct the library. That did not include design or soft cost contingency or FF&E in that price. So to compare with where we are today is we are at $31.2 million, a $5 million increase, 19% increase based on not just inflation, but labor escalations and supply chains concerns. So this is where we are at the 35% drawings, $31.2 million. Then I wanted to talk about there are design and soft costs associated with any project. As you know, the design costs for this project are at $1.1 million that have already occurred after you authorize that interim agreement to get us to the 35% drawings. FF&E and technology, $2.9 million is the proposal there, the estimate, and other contingency management and fees are at $1.8 million. So you can see the total design and soft costs that need to be added to the $31 million number is $5.9 million. And so when you do that, you get $37.2 million project. So there's a reason I broke out FF&E and technology, because we have heard from the Friends of the Williamsburg Regional Library their excitement about this project, that they plan to start a fundraising campaign for the FF&E and technology in that building. That's a role that they play very well, working with the trustees and the staff of the library, and they are planning a capital campaign to raise funds for that. So you can see if they are able to raise those funds, $2.9 million, that would reduce the city count, the cost to $34.2 million. So I wanted to share the soft costs, the design costs that were not part of that original drawing, because it gets confusing if you're not comparing apples to apples in this case, but also share that the Friends of the Williamsburg Regional Library are committed to raising funds for this project. So as we move forward here, I wanted to show two options. One would be without funding from the Friends of the Library. You can see that council's discussing a $5 million down payment on the project and a $15 million borrowing as the first tranche of borrowing here this fall. And then move into the fall of next year, there would be a remainder of $17.2 million to borrow for a total of $32.2 million of borrowing for this project. If you look at option 2 is with the consideration of the Friends of the Library raising the $2.9 million. So same funding this year, this fall, would be $5 million down payment, a $15 million borrowing. And then next year, it would be a reduced borrowing amount of $29.2 million. So we're doing this we're proposing this can be done in 2 tranches because you will not need the entire construction cost available for that first year. So this saves costs to do 2 borrowings. So I've given that overview, and now I'd love to turn it over to the experts. So we have Sandy Tower, the executive director of the Williamsburg Library here, as well as Jim Yatsik, who's with MBP, who works for the city of Williamsburg as our construction expert to negotiate this with Horrigan, who's also here, our contractor, or the proposed contractor, as well as Michael Snexner, the architect on the project. So I will turn it over to them.
Welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. So good afternoon, city council members. Happy to be here today. Guess what I'm going to talk about? The library, right? One of my favorite things to do. So let's see if I can. Beautiful. So when we talk about the Williamsburg Library, we're really talking about much more than a building. And it's much more than books. The library is one of those special places in Williamsburg, as Ms. Barnett mentioned at the beginning of today's meeting. It's this place where everyone is welcome. On any given day, you'll find children discovering the joy of reading, students working together, adults attending programs, neighbors meeting neighbors, and people simply finding a comfortable place to learn, connect, or spend time. In the 53 years since the Williamsburg Library moved to Scotland Street, the way people use the library has dramatically changed. Today, people come not only for books, but for technology, programs, meeting spaces, events, lifelong learning, and opportunities to connect with one another. And people are using the library a lot. Last week alone, 13,500 people visited the library buildings. Nearly 8,000 of those visits were right here at the Williamsburg Library in 1 week. That kind of activity benefits more than the library. Many of those visitors spend time downtown before or after their visit, having lunch, shopping, or stopping at other businesses. The library brings people downtown and helps contribute to the lively, welcoming community that Williamsburg wants to foster. The Williamsburg Library has become an important part of the rhythm of this community. It brings people together and helps make Williamsburg the kind of place where people want to live, to work, to visit, and to belong. And in many ways, the success of the library has created our biggest challenge. The building that served Williamsburg so well for decades is no longer suited to the way that people use the library today. The building has served the community extraordinarily well, but the Williamsburg today is very different than the Williamsburg of 1973, and so is the way that the community uses its library. Remember, when that building was built in 1973, the internet didn't exist yet. Personal computers didn't exist yet. So it's a very different world. The Williamsburg Library simply wasn't designed for the number of people that we see today and the types of programs, services, and activity it now supports. We're asking a 50-year-old building to do things it was never intended to do. The good news is we've been here before. As Williamsburg has grown and changed, its library has grown and changed with it. In 1909, that picture on the left was the library in the St. George Tucker House in Colonial Williamsburg. In 1933, it moved to the corner of Francis and South England Streets to the building you see on your right. And in 1973, Williamsburg made another important investment in its future by opening the library on Scotland Street. Now, that building has now served this community for more than half a century. It was renovated extensively in 1982 when we added the theater, and again in 1998 when we added the children's wing and some adult area. It was that those renovations extended the useful life of the building and allowed it to serve generations of Williamsburg residents. But there comes a point when another renovation is no longer the best answer. A major renovation today would be expensive and disruptive. It could mean closing the library for 18 months or longer, taking this heavily used community resource out of service for an extended period of time. And after all that time and investment, we would still have some of the same fundamental challenges we face today. We would still have limited parking. We would still be working within a sprawling footprint that can be difficult to navigate and create security concerns. And we would still be trying to make a building designed for another era meet the needs of Williamsburg's future. So the question isn't simply, how do we fix the building we have? It's what kind of library does Williamsburg deserve for the next 50 years? Previous generations answered that question when their community outgrew its library. They had the foresight to invest in what Williamsburg needed next. And now it's our turn. A new Williamsburg library is an opportunity to create something that truly reflects the community it serves today. Welcoming, accessible, flexible, and connected to the life of downtown. It's an investment not just in a new building, but in the people who walk through its doors every day, and in the Williamsburg we want to leave to the generations that follow us. So thank you. And I think our next presenter is Mr. Yatzek.
Welcome, Mr. Yasik.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Jim Yatzek with MVP. I've been working as the owner, representative, project manager on behalf of the city of this project. Excited to be here today to talk to you about it. We're going to lead off with Michael Schnitzer from Time F. Moss Associates just to walk through latest renderings and site plans, and then I'll finish up with some of the cost and schedule information. I think should be mostly a recap of what Ms. DeWitt just shared with you, but may provide a little bit additional detail, and we'll be happy to answer questions after that.
Afternoon, Council. Good to
Good
see you all
afternoon.
again.
Thank you.
I'm going to be focusing mostly on the updates on what's changed, and the answer is there's not been a whole lot changed since you guys saw it last. We did give the building a 5% square foot reduction. We shortened it just ever so slightly. All of those things don't impact our ability to meet the program requirements of the RFP, so we're still providing the library system with all of the spaces they need and all the capacities that they need. Materials on the outside of the building, largely unchanged. Site plan has had some shuffling around, but mostly to satisfy the needs of the library system and how they want to function. So we'll go through the renderings, which are sort of repeats of the renderings we had seen before. Again, this is the overhead viewed from the southeast looking to the northwest. The building is still positioned adjacent to Stryker Center here, positioned a little further north on the lot so that the existing building can remain while this building is built. It does require the demolition of the police station. You can see the main entry in the middle, the auditorium to the south, the proper with the books in the reading room to the north, sort of entry plaza there that would be between Stryker Center and the library. Oh, wrong direction. Jim, you told me the wrong button, man. This is the view looking from the northwest to the southeast. So we see kind of, this is the corner where the police station is, Stryker Center to the top. See the library proper in the foreground, the auditorium in the background, and then in the center there, the main entry. The view from sort of the front door of the Stryker Center looking towards the library, auditorium there on the left, main entry there on the right, auditorium entry sort of for after hours, dead in the middle. It's an evening view. This is the very similar view from the daytime, maybe from the corner looking towards the main entry. Again, there haven't been a whole lot of changes to the building. The only real material change was changing the precast concrete, which is all of the white material, from precast to a metal panel, which is kind of the same treatment that the Stryker has, as it has metal panel here on the building. This is the view from the northwest corner. The new fire station is across the street, and then again we can see the big reading room opening that opens to the north. Have the two floor plans. On the first floor, again, not a whole lot's changed. We continue to manipulate and modify and tweak this to be to the library system's likings. On the left, the library proper in the orange is the adult collection. Gray spaces to above that are back of house staff spaces. Main entry in the middle, and then over to the right we have the auditorium with its sort of meeting rooms. Upstairs, we've moved the children's library upstairs, which has been that way for quite some time. The only major change here was we went from 2 elevators down to 1 elevator. We sort of centrally located an elevator with a front and back entrance, so staff can use it and the public can use it, and we're just being a little more efficient in that. This is the site plan. Again, Mitch from VHB could go into loads of detail that is probably a little too much, but we've been continuing to work with the library system to make this work for them the way that it needs to work. We have 5-minute parking in the front. We've moved where the trash pickup is. Parking is, how big of an increase? 20%? 50%? 20% increase over what they have now, count-wise. Still meets or exceeds the city requirements. I think that's back over to Jim.
Thank you, Michael. I'm glad Michael mentioned some of the modifications that we made to the design, like reduction from 2 elevators to 1 elevator and changing the exterior from precast to the metal composite. That was some of the value engineering work that we did with the team to try to get a fine-tuned cost down, get the best cost for the project. And while still maintaining the overall function and appearance. So what I was going to do is just go through a very brief timeline for the project. The information in italics is really what's happened in the past. I know that the history goes back a lot further than 2 years, but 2 years ago is about when I had gotten involved in the project, and we had put out a request for proposals for design-build proposals. Received 3 proposals at that time, and we went through a selection process. The Hergen Time Off Moss team was the team that was ultimately selected through that process. From there, we went into some community engagement sessions. Those were very well-attended sessions, and I think from what Michael just relayed, some of the information that was presented at those informational sessions, the overall concepts of the library really have not changed since that time, but they were very well attended. It was good to see the lot of engagement, interest from the community. So following that, we moved to the next stage of the process. In December of 2025, City Council authorized us to go to the 35% design. So that's really what we've spent the front part of this year doing, is getting a 35% design. And that really concludes this initial contract that the Hergen Time Off Moss team is under, is to develop a 35% design, which they've now done, and then to, at the end of that, basically give us their guaranteed maximum price proposal, which is basically a proposal to say this is the price to finish the design and then also build the library. So that's really where we're at today. If we continue through the process, the next step would be to enter into really a follow-up contract with Hergen Time Off Moss, what we call comprehensive agreement. And again, that's just to complete the balance of design and do construction of the project. And if that is authorized by council and executed, the first thing that you will see, Ms. DeWitt already touched on some of this timeline, but the existing police station really be the first visible construction activity you would see out there, because it is in the footprint of where we're planning to put the new library. So that would come down early next year, and then visible construction work, foundations and that type of thing, start seeing the new building come out of the ground next April. Go through construction all of the rest of 2027, and then what we're looking at right now in 2028 would be a very brief period where The existing library would close while the new library is still under construction. There's about a 6-month overlap there. We've talked with the WRL folks, and they understand that and have been working through plans to address that. New material will be moved into the library as the new library it's being constructed, and then where the old library has come down, that would become that new parking lot that was just showed. And then in August 2028 is when we would plan to open the new library. So that is timeline, and then just a few more nuts and bolts about the cost that Ms. DeWitt shared. The top line there, that's what has already been executed to get to the 35% design and to do those community engagements. That's $1.1 million. And then the guaranteed maximum price that we've received, the base proposal is about $30.2 million, and then we had some additive alternates. There's 5 additive alternates. Just going through the list, the wood ceilings, acoustic baffles, terrazzo at the lobby, those are really, they're optional, they're alternate, but they will definitely add to the value of the library in terms of both maintainability, the terrazzo especially, but also acoustical properties for the wood ceilings and the baffles, and I think just to overall create a more welcoming environment for the library. So those are things that WRL staff and I think others are interested in seeing part of this project, even though they're identified as additive alternates right now. Similarly, with the partition, we currently have a very large multi-purpose room, and this partition would allow subdividing that room, so additional functionality could be gained out of it. Two separate functions can take place at the same time. Another option that's of high interest to WRL. Some upgraded landscaping. One of the things that we don't want to have with this project is really kind of have a sea of parking in the place where the current library is. So this is to be able to dress up that area a little further with some more landscaping. And then we have some allowances. These are really items that, at least the first 2 are items that really we haven't really defined what that scope is, so we're just kind of carrying a allowance price in there right now. And then lastly, this was an item that's also very important to WRL, but it came up towards the end of the 35% design, so we want to make sure it's included. But for right now, we basically have just attached that allowance price to it. Add all of those prices up, and you get to the 31.2, and then once you factor in the already spent 1.2 for the interim agreement, you get to the 32.347 figure. And that is basically all we had to present today. I think happy to turn it over to questions, anything that I can answer, or Michael, the Hergen team as well, and I'm sure Sandy can speak to any operational type questions.
Well, thank you both, all 3 of you, for being here today and for the presentation. Be remiss if I didn't say that value engineering got us less but cost us more. And I recognize time and materials and cost change. Switching to the steel clad versus the precast, I think, doesn't excite me too much, but Jim, if you and your expertise think that we'll still get a good quality product, then that's fine. This project, means a lot to the community. There's no question. What the library represents to all of us, not just in the city, but to the community, is an important thing. And, as Ms. Towler said earlier, this is a place that brings people together, and if we can do that here in our community, that's important. That said, I know we have information coming up, how do we pay for this coming up, and so I'm looking forward to that, but I don't have any questions about the design. Some of the alternates here are not insignificant, but not significant enough to the project that, to me, would be worth scaling back on those few things. I think they make the project shinier. So, Mr. Vice Mayor, any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you all for being here for the presentation, and Ms. Towers it's always a good reminder, even though we've heard it over and over and over again, it's always a good reminder to realize that we're talking about a 50-year-old building that's been through significant renovations a few times already, and was mentioned early on when we started this discussion, maybe $20 million renovation could get us somewhere close to what our community would want. But then how long does that last, and then when do we have to invest in it again? So as the mayor said, with some of the optional things, I think we all anticipated some increase in costs with the alternates and allowances there. We leave that up to the experts and to the staff on what the library needs to be for our community. Again, it's a significant investment in our community, and we're going to hear about ways how we could fund this. But I think as long as this discussion's taking place, and we still have time between now and September for the community to comment on this, and really welcome the feedback as we move forward before we take this under consideration in September. It is a huge cost, but then we look at other investments in the community, and it's not that big of a cost.
Stacy, thank you.
Yes, hi. Yes, thank you so much for the updates and presentation on this extremely important project and investment in our community. And I just echo what been already been said by the mayor and vice mayor, and I don't have any questions at this time.
And I don't have many questions at this point. I have a couple comments after we hear from Mr. Sanderson. But I appreciate all the work that you all have done on this. I will just say to echo that it is an old building that we're replacing. The cost have increased. It's been basically 2 years since the RFP. A lot has happened in the past 2 years, whether it be tariffs, inflation, cost of oil, and it's not just gasoline that oil plays a part in. So there's a lot of factors out there that increase the price. But the key thing is it's not going to get any less expensive. If we say, oh, let's wait for 5 years where we might be able to better afford it. Well, 5 years, you'll just have higher increases and more maintenance costs for what the current library is encountering right now. So I appreciate that. I did have one question, and it goes to sort of the exterior design, I guess, in terms of ARB. I think I saw that it was presented to the ARB for conceptual review. Is that correct? So just wanted to get a little update on that.
Yes, it's gone through one review. There were some comments, and we've talked with Time Off about it. But
Sure. We went a few months ago. And they had some comments, but none of them were really super major. We are going back tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
To make sure that we've made some adjustments. Some of the things that we took there we took the original renderings, and we've made some changes sort of as we've gone through the process. So we're going up with updated ones tomorrow. Don't expect that any of the comments will cause us to start all over again.
Well, we're good. I don't think any of us want to go through that process. But you also don't feel that any of the comments and changes that they might request will impact the price?
That's the goal.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the information, and thank you specifically, Ms. Towers, for going through again the history of the renovations and just kind of what has led us to this point as well, which was mentioned. I did have one question, and thank you for all of your work and kind of fine-tuning this process with, reducing the square feet by 5%, and also the elevator and making those adjustments as well. But I just was kind of curious, looking at this slide up here, kind of some of the rationale, and I understand these alternatives and allowances kind of add somewhere near $1 million to the price, the guaranteed maximum price that we have, but kind of some of the rationale with these, And I understand it's kind of really it's a balancing act of fine tuning, but also making sure that we deliver a product that is well done and a good product as well.
Yeah, good, very good question. I mean, I think we wanted to kind of get to your base model cost, which is the GMP, depending on how the funding and financing shook out, and identify some options where you can say, okay, we can pay for that, or we may not be able to pay for that, or don't think we want to pay for that, just so we could really have that conversation around those items. It's a pretty typical process doing additive alternates and giving the owners and clients that we work with the option of choosing those. Sometimes those items do end up really being sort of nice to have. If we have enough money, sure, we can do that. I think in the case of all 5 of those, they probably do rise to more of a level of a new modern library. These are just things that you can expect. Terrazzo, from a maintainability standpoint, it will last 100 or a few hundred years probably. If you put in tile or something else, you'll probably be replacing it in 20 years. So that kind of thing pays for itself. I think that the next 2 really provide some additional acoustic qualities, and then again provide that warm, welcoming sense to the library that kind of speaks to the importance for it to be for its civic use. So I think they rise above, these just look nice. They also serve a very important feature and function, but ultimately we wanted to sort of bring that decision back to the city staff and city council to be able to say, yes, we think those are important features. We know we don't have to have them, but they are good ideas to have.
Well, thank you for the extra context, and I'm not familiar with the process, but I can imagine that these were kind of probably amongst a list of different alternatives and allowances for a project. So just out of curiosity, how were these the ones that kind of made it through probably that expansive list?
I can try to weigh in on that, or maybe phone a friend if.
If you'll come to the microphone, please, Tanya.
Here I come.
Thank you.
These are here. They're in the room. So I think these items not only provide functionality, but they also provide sort of that, library is a signature building for a community. And the Williamsburg Library is our central library. It's where our administration is. It's a significant building for this community. So having these things sort of elevates it to a building that we can be really proud of. But at the same time, there's a lot of functionality there too. So the acoustic baffles in a library are really important, because acoustics, as you can imagine, in a library that has 8,000 people a week coming through are important. And then the terrazzo, Mr. Yatsik spoke to that. It's sort of, not only does it make a statement when you come in, but it's also a very durable surface when you have book carts and baby strollers and all kinds of activity rolling across that floor. And so they are functional, but I do think that some of them provide sort of the kind of library that we can all be proud of. So does that answer your question?
Yes,
Ms.
yes. No,
Williams?
thank you for the extra context there.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Appreciate you all being here for that discussion. Okay, so we're gonna
Mr. Davenport will now.
Mr. Davenport.
I'm sorry. Mr. Sanderson.
Say, Mr. Sanderson, would you like to come forward?
Good evening, or good afternoon, maybe, but we're in the middle there. It's not the only one that's called me that. There was the mayor of Hopewell refuses to call me anything but Mr. Davenport. She's since retired, but.
I'm sure David Rose takes offense to you being Mr. Davenport.
We'll call him that too. Good afternoon. Again, Jimmy Sanderson with Davenport. We're the financial advisor to the city. Wanted to walk you through a little bit of how this plays into our financing of the project, and ultimately what the impact might be on you, on your policies that you have in place related to debt, but then also how we're gonna pay for this going forward. And just as a reminder, we have had this in our CIP and been a part of our retreats for a while, so this isn't something that we hadn't been planning for, and looking at what those impacts might be going forward, and relate to the rating agencies over the years as well. Maybe we'll just skip down a little bit. We are in the process of taking out the band that we had a plan to in October this year, but related to the city library, a few things we want to point out in our analysis. Again, it's been part of our process going forward. We have included here the estimated price of the $37.2 million, that includes the FF&E. We have included also the redirection of about $5 million of that equity into the project as well. Going forward, you'll see that here in a minute. We're looking at doing a transaction here in the fall, again, obviously with council's authorization of going forward, that utilizes both cash and borrowing to start with. The borrowing would be about $15 million of project costs that we would look at the fall of this year. And then we'd follow it up next year with an additional, again, bond anticipation note, same process we talked about before, short-term borrowings for these things, and then taking them out longer term later, just like we're doing right now with the police station. That $17.2 million borrowing would be in the fall of 27. I think one of the things that I've heard tonight that may help play into that process too is, with respect to the fundraising that may take place, that's certainly going to take some time. Understanding what that might be a little bit better can reduce what that borrowing may need to be in 2027. But this does not include any assumptions about additional dollars for fundraising monies. So let's go forward. We hit on this already. But this borrowing, again, the first project we're looking at, the first borrowing we would look at is the fall of this year. The second one in 2027, really call that like completion bonds to take out the known costs of the project at the time. And then we would take them both out together in the fall of 2029. Again, that's just the assumptions that we've got. We can address that and look at that as we go forward. If the opportunities arise for low interest rates and taking them out earlier or taking them out a little bit later, we certainly have that flexibility going forward. On what we like to call your debt capacity, right? So layering in this debt into your existing debt structure and understanding what the impacts are on your policy is important. One of the policies that you have, and is shown here, is debt to assessed value. So that's a measure of your principal amount of your debt outstanding at any given time compared to the total assessed value of the property within the city of Williamsburg. Pretty standard policy that local governments have across the Commonwealth. You have a policy of 3%, a planning range of 2.75%. And you can see here when we add in all of the debt that we've talked about in your CIP, you just go north of 2% when this second tranche of debt gets issued out there in 2027 and 2028. So again, within our policies, that's a positive going forward, and we have some cushion even in this going forward. Debt service to expenditures. So this looks at your annual debt service and measured against your total budget on the expenditure side, just to see how much we have, how much of our debt service is taking up our annual expenditure budget. Again, we have a policy of 12%. We want to plan in that range of 10%. That just gives us a little cushion if things go up or down in our budget or our debt. And you can see here that we're below that at the high point, we're below 8%. So still well within our policies when all of this debt is added in. So then we talk about the affordability side of things. And again, you may recall we showed this to council in February, and we talked about it at least one other time during the year. What does this look like going forward? And we translate it into the value of a penny is the way we like to do it. Doesn't mean that you have to raise taxes on the real estate value at these times, but it gives you a sense of what the impact might be on your budget. The value of 1 penny in 27 was just shy of $350,000, for example. So you go through the process, and you can see the impact that we showed you back in February was actually closer to 5 pennies on this analysis. The city has done in your budgets that were up after our retreat. You've already built in some of the impact of your overall debt structure going forward. And so now, and again, this isn't just the library, this is all of the other stuff that we've done too. The impact looks like it's gone down about 3 pennies in 2031. Obviously, there's some time between now and then. If the value of a penny, as we've assumed, grows at 2%, if it were to grow at a greater value, or there were additional development in the city, that would lessen that impact in the future as well. The timing, Michelle talked about this a little bit. Again, maybe just highlight, you're going to consider, at least if things go the way they're planned, the project, the library project specifically at your September council meeting. Our goal would then be to get out an RFP on the street and get those back to us in advance of your October meeting. So then you could have your public hearings in September. We could come back to you at your October 8th meeting with bids in hand from lenders, be able to demonstrate exactly what that debt service would look like going forward. We've assumed in our numbers a 5% interest rate. That's pretty consistent with what we've had with you before. Been pretty good about coming in below that. So the expectation is we, absent some market movement between now and then, that we'd be under that planning rate of 5% as well. That would allow us to close the transaction, as Michelle noted, into the November timeframe, and the proceeds will be available to you at that point. So I will stop there, Mr. Mayor, and of course I'm happy to answer any questions of council.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Davenport. I appreciate seeing this, even with the additional borrowing requirements to make this project happen, we're still within our goals and our procedures and our policies. We're still below some of the peaks. I think it clearly demonstrates that if council moves forward with this, we'll be hitting kind of a high bar for us in terms of total debt. But as I look at this, and what it inspires me or aspires me or gives me greater confidence is that debt will start to wane off over the next 20, 30 years, leading into 2051, we're talking 30 years. Those will be pretty rosy years for those that are still with us, like Pat and Barb. And it's conceivable then that you'll see a tax decrease. I mean, the debt is looking pretty good. So I'm not so fearful of the increased cost that have been presented by Horgan and the team. And so I still think this is a worthy project. So I don't have any Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Again, I think it's, I like the fact that you're basing this on a 2% growth, which hopefully is going to be more than a 2% growth, and pointing out that 3 cent, because oftentimes in the community, when they see that 3 cent, they automatically think it's a tax increase, but it's equivalent to 3% in tax dollars. And I think we all see that coming from hopefully just the sports and event center itself. And,
absolutely.
And the growth we'll see there. But I too, as the mayor said, we're well within our capacity. My only question is, and I know it would be, it's just a judgment on your part, but do you see any of the additional borrowing for the library affecting any of our bond ratings?
I don't. I think you never know, right? But we have been messaging this to the rating agencies for a number of years. Our Williamsburg has a lot of strong financial attributes to it, so I think obviously we would wait to hear back from them specifically, but it's one that, again, we're trying to layer this debt in, because I think the biggest issue, obviously, having to take on those sort of multi-generational projects in a shorter period of time like you're having to do, is to try to figure out a way to ease that in, and that's what we're trying to do, so there's not that large impact on you. And again, when you look at your metrics compared to other similarly rated entities, you're AAA by one rating agency and you're AA1 by the other rating agency. You're in a similar state as them, and again, we just happen to be in a cycle now where we were in the need of some capital projects, and that's gonna pressure things a little bit. But there are also not a lot of, that I'm aware of, large capital projects out there either that the city needs to do.
Yeah, I think that's important, that down the road we don't vision any huge capital projects. We're kind of taking care of all of those.
I mean, I not to interrupt you, I apologize, but I mean, there'll be a fire truck in 6-7 years, those types of things. But,
Live performance venue.
right.
Thank you.
Stacy. Yes, Ms. Kern-Shear.
Come on, Doug, yeah.
If it weren't for me, you'd be forgotten.
I got both of you.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you very much for the presentation. I did have a question, and it really comes off of something I believe that you answered and we talked about just this past month about how one decides that a ban is the right choice. And so, because sometimes I think there is confusion or just, we just don't think about it necessarily in our everyday lives about, well, wait a minute, we took out this bond. Why in just a few years are we having to, revisit this again? So can you just explain again the why we use these bans versus something like much bigger, and the role of the ban in a strategic way of financing such a large project such as this?
So the expectation is that in the market today is that your ban is going to be a lower interest rate one than borrowing longer term. Just think about it. If somebody's going to lend you money over a 3 or 4 year period, it's going to be lower, absent some disruptions in the past in the markets, but it's going to be a lower interest rate than if you were to lock in a rate out for 25 years or so today. So part of the goal is keeping that interest rate low here in the near term until some of your existing debt rolls off. Then we refinance the debt longer term with a typical normal amortization at that point. But again, it's a way that we're able to sort of ease into our debt service and take advantage of your existing decline in your current debt service at lower rates. Yeah.
Right, and I think that's an important note, that level of the rolling nature of it is actually a sign of the careful planning, not sort of oh, we didn't know, or now we're having to do something sooner than we anticipated. It actually is part of the strategy in terms of managing the debt over time, particularly in a situation where we are, as we've said, where we have a lot of these generational projects that we are tackling in a fairly short period of time. So thank you for explaining that again, and I don't have any further questions right now.
Thank you.
And I don't have any questions. I just have, today is my day for words, flexibility, choice. So my words for this are investment and capacity. And so I look at this, as we've talked over the years, that this is an investment in our community and one that I, as a taxpayer, am willing and want to make. And secondly, the capacity to pay the debt. And I think you have demonstrated that quite clearly today. And so I appreciate you always being here to remind us. And for me, the charts are particularly invaluable. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for just the overview and kind of what I said earlier. I guess my word is stewardship just for the day. But it really just helps us see just like how we're staying, below those ceilings that we've set as well. And, I was thinking too about the mayor's comment of we really see our debt service wind down, in going into the 2050s. And, I kind of took that one step further of, these buildings are 40, 50-year buildings too, and 2050 is 30 years from now. So really, I think, doing it now, while it is a huge just haul of resources, it really will set the city up well in the future. So just thank you again for your time today, and I'm going over just all the information.
Yes, ma'am.
And some future council, when I'm long gone, can start the process all over again.
Okay.
I'll still be here.
Mr. Anderson, thank you. Okay, so there's no action. We'll revisit this in September, and we'll make some decisions. Is that correct, Ms. DeWitt?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Conquered that. Let's go to item C, which is discussion of the goals, initiatives, and outcomes, GIO strategic planning schedule. Ms. DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Since May of 1992, the City of Williamsburg has developed goals, initiatives, and outcomes in the summer and fall of even number years. The GIOs, as you know, are our strategic plan, and it sets our priorities and initiatives above and beyond the basic services that we do as a city. And prior to 2022, this GIO lined up with the May election. So in 2021, the state, in its wisdom, moved our elections from May to November, and so that caused our GIO input period to happen right before an election, right before an incoming city council was sworn in. So having done that twice, staff is now asking council for some direction. We propose that we move that out a year so the incoming city council that will be elected this November, sworn in January, will take on the input for the goals, initiatives, and outcomes. And because this will be a change to your policies and procedures manual, we're asking for a motion and a vote to direct staff to do that.
Yeah, so I think given, the effect of the change of the May to November election, it makes sense. This is how we did it in the past. The newly seated council would begin the GIO process. We got out of that cycle, so this just rights that ship. And it affords me the opportunity not to have to participate so directly in the GIO process in 2027. So I think it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the right direction. And in fact, having some conversation with Mr. Witt, and just something I would ask council colleagues to keep in the back of your mind, because every year we're finding that and no one's fault. It's just some of them are big projects and things happen that we always end up with a lot of projects left over, carrying over from year to year to year. And I don't know what the answer is to make it align with election cycles, but maybe that we look at a GIO process that's, we consider that more than every 2-year process. And again, I don't know what the answer is to how we make it fit, or maybe there's a 2-year review, but maybe it goes to a 4 or 5 year strategic planning cycle like a lot of organizations do, just to allow staff time to get the projects, because we say every year at the GIO retreat, we're not adding a lot of projects, and at the end of it, we add a lot of projects. And having been on both sides of the fence as an employee and on city council, I'm sensitive to the fact of what we add to the plate. So I support the change now, but just something that we could discuss going forward as we make changes to our policies and procedures manual.
Ms. Kern-Shear?
Yes, so I too think this makes good sense as somebody who was elected November of 22, so the first election on the November cycle. I do remember, thinking, well, that's kind of strange. Like, why would they do the GIO cycle right before an election? But understanding that was a relic of having the May elections, and so it made perfect sense. I think that this is just, like the mayor said, sort of righting the ship. I think this is the way that way it should be. This change that we're discussing, going back to making sure that the newly seated council takes up the GIO process shortly thereafter. I just think it's logical and it makes sense. And that's to say, like anybody who is newly elected to city council, that isn't to say you're still going to inherit ideas and projects that are ongoing. So it's not like every council is a fresh, clean slate. But I do think having it such the GIO cycle happens after a newly seated council is the logical thing to do. So I support this change.
And I support the change as well. Just two comments. One, I do agree with the vice mayor that there are a lot of projects that are more 5-year strategic plan topics. Like we look at the African American Heritage Trail. I think it first showed up on our GIOs in 2020, and here we're voting in 2026. And so each cycle we've continued that, whereas maybe somehow we look at sort of the transformational ones and say, okay, these are our 5-year tackle ones, and then have others that might fit better into a 2-year cycle. So I think there is some room for changing that. I also think by moving it to what it would be like 9 or 10 months after new council members have been sworn in, gives them a chance to really understand the process a little bit more. I know that when I was first elected, it was GIOs and not really understanding how they impacted and the budget and the staff time, and this will provide some learning time before they get into the thick of it. So I'm supportive as well.
I'm also supportive of this change, and I think it's just, I think it definitely is great kind of getting it back on that timeline of, with the election as well. So I don't have too much to add, but I also agree with Vice Mayor Dent's comments of re-evaluating our approach with the timeline of 2 years. I mean, that is not a long time at all, especially when you think of a traditional strategic planning process being around that 5-year timeline. So definitely very supportive of this change.
Okay, so I move that City Council direct staff to delay the GIO process until 2027 and prepare an update to the council's policies and procedures manual to move the GIO schedule to odd-numbered years after the election or re-election of council members.
Second.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kern Shear?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Leads us now to item 6, council communication. Does anybody have anything they want to share?
I did want to just take a quick moment to, the mayor and I had the opportunity to attend another graduation in the Summer Youth Achievement Program. And just want to say thanks to Wendy and her staff at Human Services. But what I really wanted to say was, after that was over, the mayor and I were talking outside, and he said something that I think we often overlook, and that was, you know, not a lot of attention is drawn to that program outside of city staff and the people involved in it. But I really do think it is something that Williamsburg should be proud of, and it really is what Williamsburg's all about. And we've all had the opportunity to attend those graduations year after year, and to see the development, to see we had a comic, to see those kids stand in front of an audience maybe for the first time, but to see their development from the beginning to the end, and the friendships that they've created and the things that they've learned that'll carry them through the rest of the life. What you said about, you know, it really is what Williamsburg is all about. It really stuck with me as I think back in that program. So Wendy, kudos to you and your staff for another successful program.
Just to add to that, one of the grandfather at the program who was so excited to come up and show me a picture of his daughter who was in the program many years ago. And so, you know, it's really serving our residents well. So thank you for that.
Generation to generation. So the only thing I would add is that City Council member Ayanna Williams and I will be hosting the August Council Chat. It will be held next Tuesday, August the 18th at 5 p.m. here in the Stryker Building, and I believe we have a room reserved. And so we welcome all residents to come out and just have an informal conversation about anything and everything. I know that Dennis Morgan with NCW is going to be distributing it, his email list, and I encourage anyone who's listening to just spread it out through neighborhood groups and residents that you know. That's all for me.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, anything?
Add.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. In your agenda, both online and here in person, there's a schedule of meetings we all can take a look at and make sure that you attend if you'd like. That leads us now to open forum, and I have one speaker's card, and that is Mr. Rick Roddington.
Council, I'm Rick Roddington. I live on Beechwood Drive in Williamsburg. I just want to make a quick observation. One of the speakers said that the new library is going to have 20% more parking spaces. Well, right now we have 88. And I believe that the project calls for 155 spaces, and according to my calculations, that's more than 20% increase, because if you take 88 spaces, additional 20% would be about 18 more, and that would bring it to about 106 spaces. So are we going to have 155 parking spaces or not? Because that has been an issue with me. I've been living here for 30 years, and the parking situation has been a big problem for me. So which is the correct figure, 106 or 155?
I think the correct number is 155.
So that is more than 20%. I don't have a pocket calculator with me right now, but I know it's more than 20%. And also, I just want to make one other observation. We have a fantastic library director. Sandy, I'm gradually getting to know her better and better, and I have to say that I hold her in the highest esteem. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward, express their love? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the open forum, and I believe we have closed session, Mr. Vice Mayor. Is that true?
We do. I move to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia for the purpose of discussing an award of a public contract involving this expenditure of public funds, including the scope of such contract where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body per subparagraph 29.
Second?
Sorry, could you add regarding the library to that motion?
Regarding the library.
Second.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kerntier?
Aye.
Okay. We will go into closed session and return to certify said meeting, and then adjourn. Thank you. in open session.
I move to approve the certification of a closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3712 in the Code of Virginia.
Second?
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
I don't know if she made it back, but she's muted. So if there's nothing else, we will adjourn. Or is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
We are adjourned.
Stir.